The first time I saw the general's concubine. She was holding a child and blocking my way on the street. Princess, please spare our lives. She begged me, her body covered in wounds. I'm willing to leave the capital with my child. Please don't kill me. The general standing beside her twitched his lips. He had just returned victorious from battle and was at the height of his power. You say someone wants to kill you? I shouted, my eyes darting over the crowd of onlookers and officials lining the street. I pointed to one of them. The Minister of Justice is there. You must go report this to him. Come. I'll take you there. The onlookers had originally come to watch the general return from battle. Little did they expect to witness such a scandal involving the imperial family. Suddenly, the street was filled with whispers and speculation. The kneeling woman became the center of attention. Tears hung on her face, frozen in place. Seeing her motionless, I grew anxious. This is the capital city, under the emperor's watchful eye. How dare someone attempt to kill a widow and her child? This is outrageous. As I spoke, I signaled the palanquin bearers to lower the palanquin. I took a few steps forward and stood before her. I glanced at the infant in her arms, white, delicate, and soft. The woman's dazed eyes betrayed a hint of defiance. She whispered softly, her voice filled with grievance. We're not orphans. The child has a father. A father? I raised my voice. If he's your father, why did he let you suffer this ordeal and put you in danger? It would be better if he didn't exist. Pacy's face darkened. The woman hurriedly explained. No. He went to war. I let out a long "oh." Since you are the wife and child of a soldier, you should be protected even more. Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice, Wen Qingye, stepped forward at the sound of his name. This case must be thoroughly investigated. My tone left no room for argument. Wen Qingye waved his hand, and two servants approached from both sides. Without a word, they stood beside the woman. Come with us. Cooperate with the investigation. The woman's face turned pale, and the infant in her arms began to wail. Pacy, who had remained silent, finally spoke up. Yuan Zhao. Enough. The whispers died down instantly. Everyone stared at Pacy with wide eyes. Yuan Zhao was my given name, and even as husband and wife, he was not permitted to address the princess by her given name, especially not in public. Seeing the situation, Pacy's deputy general immediately dismounted and knelt before me. Princess, please forgive us. Our general has been fighting for days and is exhausted. So he spoke without thinking. Pacy regained his composure and calmed down. Princess, there's no need to involve the Minister of Justice in such a trivial matter. I think this peasant woman is just scared and talking nonsense. Send her back home. Deputy General. The deputy understood and replied. Yes, General. I will send her back immediately. The woman was reluctant but, seeing the situation, dared not say more. Facing Pacy's men, she seemed much more at ease. She was nothing like the defiant woman from earlier. She even bowed her head and thanked them. Thank you, General. How polite. I glanced sideways at Wen Qingye, who understood my look. Standing in front of the deputy general, he said, just now, this peasant woman kept mentioning the princess. All the officials and citizens of the capital heard her. If we don't investigate this thoroughly, it will tarnish the princess's reputation. In front of the Minister of Justice, the deputy general dared not act rashly. Both he and the woman looked at Pacy for help. Pacy coldly said, everyone says she's scared out of her wits. How can we take her rambling seriously? Why are you picking on a madwoman? Wen Qingye? Accusing the princess. Even if she's mad, she must be imprisoned. Wen Qingye's words were firm and resolute. The woman was startled. She clutched the child in her arms, trembling. I couldn't bear to watch and spoke softly. Minister 1. Look how you've frightened her. She didn't implicate me at all. She was clearly pleading for my help. Right? Before the woman could speak, when Chinya remained composed, gently touching the woman's cheek and neck with his fingertips. She's covered in injuries. If she wasn't being chased, she must have been abused. You can't hurt a madwoman like that. I covered my mouth and chuckled. The emperor loves his people like his own children. The weak, the old, the sick, and the disabled deserve even more care. A madwoman is still a human being. How could she be beaten like this without any reason? The crowd echoed in agreement. Yes. Those injuries are horrifying. Evil people go unpunished. And we dare not even leave our homes. Exactly. Who dares to leave their doors unlocked at night? Pacy couldn't speak, clenching his teeth tightly. The woman, however, cried out in panic, Princess. I'm not mad. Today's commotion wouldn't die down. I circled her with interest, then turned to Pacy, who was frowning on his horse, and said, General, she's not a madwoman. I must help her. The emperor is waiting for you in the palace. Why don't you go ahead? There was a banquet in the palace today to welcome the soldiers back. If we were late, it would be a serious offense. Pacy hesitated, gripping the reins tightly. The deputy general nodded at him, and the expression reassured him. Pacy looked at the woman once more, his gaze speaking volumes. After a moment, he spoke wearily. I'll go first. Princess. Don't delay too long. I smiled and nodded. After all, in the eyes of the common people, I shouldn't be able to do anything out of the ordinary. With his deputy watching over the scene, as long as the woman didn't say anything wrong, this matter could be swept under the rug. As soon as Pacy urged his horse forward, I asked, You said the child has a father. Then, all these injuries, could they be from the child's father? According to our dynasty's laws, even if they are husband and wife, they cannot intentionally beat or abuse each other. The child's father would have to go to prison. Whoa. Pacy suddenly pulled the reins, and his warhorse skidded to a halt in an arc. He nearly threw Pacy off the horse. The woman panicked, clutching the child tightly and shaking her head repeatedly. No. It wasn't the child's father who did it. It was. She looked at Pacy, her face filled with distress. She didn't say it, so I spoke for her. Someone else did it? She cried, looking pitiful, and didn't deny it. When Chinya pressed further. Who? Enemies? Bandits? Do you recognize them? The woman's face was streaked with tears, her eyes fixed on Pacy, unsure how to respond. Pacy sighed, avoiding her gaze. Why are you looking at me? Since bandits and robbers have come to your door to commit violence, the Ministry of Justice will certainly give you an explanation. Yes. It was bandits. Yes. It was that group of bandits from the outskirts of the capital. She spoke with increasing certainty. After she finished, Pacy and his deputy both sighed in relief. The outskirts of the capital were home to many vagrants who had turned to banditry. Despite several campaigns to eradicate them, their hideout had never been destroyed. Upon hearing this, the villagers naturally assumed she was part of that gang. They began cursing in unison. It's those bandits from Chicken Feather Mountain again. Last time, they robbed the Pei family's escort. The imperial court has cleared them out several times. How can they not handle such a small band of bandits? I thought they only robbed convoys. This is too brazen. They even broke into homes to rob people. The Pei family escort agency was the property of Pacy's clan. Upon hearing this, Pacy finally jumped off his horse. He bowed his fist toward the crowd of people shouting. This general will report to the emperor shortly and request permission to eliminate the bandits. This time, we will ensure that these bandits have no place to bury their dead. He spoke with great conviction, prompting the crowd to clap and cheer. No one paid attention to the woman anymore. I glanced at Wenqingye, who signaled for me not to worry. Suddenly, a burly man pushed his way through the crowd. He pushed aside the people in the front row and made his way to the guards. We of Chicken Feather Mountain only rob the rich to help the poor. We never raid ordinary people's homes. You, a little woman, don't spread lies. Hu Lauer, see you're carrying a baby. Otherwise, I'd show you what I'm made of. The crowd scattered upon hearing this, and the guards drew their swords, holding them to Hu Lauer's neck. I was protected by the guards, and Pacy also rushed to the woman's side. You dare to appear before this general and speak so boldly? Hu Lauer sneered. We specifically target your Pei family's escort carriages. One carriage can feed the refugees in the western suburbs for a month. If you dare to make me say it, what do you think you're made of? Pacy's face turned green, and he roared. Nonsense. I'll kill you right now. Just as he was about to act, he was pulled back by Wenqingye. General, follow the law and interrogate him first. Don't act impulsively. How could Pacy not be impulsive? He wanted to kill Wenqingye first. I pushed aside the guards, stood beside Pacy, and shook his sleeve. There are so many people watching. General, don't lose your composure. Besides, I don't think the bandits intend to run. Let's have Wenqingye arrest them and interrogate them first. He tried to pull his hand away, but he was held on both sides and couldn't just shake me off and leave. Lord Wen, arrest him and see what he has to say. We must clear the Pei family's name. I beg you. Wenqingye nodded. Princess, rest assured. I will see to it. Hu Erliang was taken away, glaring fiercely at Pacy as he left. Pacy was nearly overcome with anger. At that moment, the deputy general in the corner was preparing to lead the woman away. Hey, Deputy General, where are you going? Fortunately, I noticed them in time and called out to them. The deputy general's forehead was covered in beads of sweat. Sir, I'm afraid the crowd might hurt the lady and the child. So I wanted to take them to a safe place first. Lady? It sounded like a slip of the tongue. I was about to step forward, but Pacy grabbed my arm from behind. Princess, don't bother with her. Let's hurry back to the palace. We had just captured a bandit, and the crowd had seen enough. At this point, no one was interested in this woman blocking the road. I could tell everyone was ready to leave. I hurriedly said, "That's not possible. She's deceiving everyone. Full of lies. Even daring to deceive this palace. She's clearly not a bandit. Yet she speaks so confidently." Pacy frowned. She's just a common woman who was robbed in her own home. How could she possibly know who the bandits were? Besides, how can we trust the words of bandits? Princess, have you had enough of this? I pointed at myself with my finger. Me? Making a scene? It was her who rushed out onto the street begging for help in front of everyone. I am the princess of Boasted.I, paid by the people's taxes. It is my duty to worry about their concerns. Pacy opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. He probably didn't expect me to suddenly take the moral high ground. A princess arguing with her prince consort is something the common folk love to see. Those who were about to go home to cook stopped in their tracks and turned back. By the time I finished speaking, my eyes were already brimming with tears. It's just crying, who can't do that? The deputy general hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Princess. General. It's not worth arguing over this peasant woman. His Majesty is waiting for you at the banquet. Why don't the two of you go to the palace first? As for this common woman, how could she tell whether the man who entered her home was a bandit or an enemy? Let us take her back to the Ministry of Justice with Mr. When to investigate further. The woman, upon hearing this, became clever. Right. It might be an enemy. The enemy of the child's father. I just don't recognize him. Oh. Who is the child's father? Is he in General Pay's army? As soon as the question was asked, the villagers' eyes turned back to them. That's right. After all that, who is the child's father? He let his own wife be beaten like this and still won't show his face. The woman's eyes flickered. This was her purpose today, to expose her identity in public. Yes. Pacy coughed lightly. He frowned and glanced at her. The woman trembled in fear when she met his gaze. The words were on the tip of her tongue, but she swallowed them back. The crowd couldn't stand seeing her stammering like that. Someone shouted, "Hey! Can't you see? She's definitely a mistress her husband dares not show in public. If she were a proper wife, how could she be out here suffering such humiliation? Maybe she's not even a mistress, she's an illegitimate child. Could it be the legitimate wife sent someone to beat her? Humph. If I were that man, I wouldn't show my face either." The crowd buzzed with speculation. After a long silence, Wen Qingye mused, "Military discipline is strict, adultery is punishable by military law." Pacy grew tense, sweat beading on his forehead. "Are you sure you want to say that?" The woman shrank back again. No, I won't report it. I'll go home." I walked over to her with a warm heart and gently stroked the child in her arms, who had just calmed down. "It's okay. I'll take care of it for you. Don't be afraid. You've suffered so much today. And that man doesn't even dare to show his face. Sister. Why are you still hiding for him? Yuan Zhao." Pacy couldn't hold back anymore. "Don't force her." This was the second time he had called me by my given name. "Why are you so upset? Pacy. This is the second time you've disrespected me today." I no longer spoke softly, my sudden sharp question startled Pacy. He hurried to my side, gripping my hands tightly, pleading for mercy. "Princess. I saw that the emperor had been waiting for us for a long time. Yet you were still lingering on the street for a lowly peasant woman. I was just worried. We are husband and wife, don't hold it against me. With so many people watching, how could she possibly admit to such a disgraceful thing?" As he spoke, he leaned close to my ear and whispered, "If such a scandal spreads throughout the army, it will bring dishonor to me, the left general. Princess. Please forgive me." This scene was all witnessed by the woman. She stared blankly at the two of us, her chest rising and falling unsteadily. A stream of tears fell like raindrops. I playfully pulled my hand back, forgiving Pacy's disrespect. "You're right. Let's take her back to the princess's mansion first. We'll discuss this when we return from the palace." As we were leaving, I gave Wen Qingye a meaningful glance. There was still Hu Ernie to be interrogated at the Ministry of Justice. Wen Qingye's lips curled into a smile, and he nodded slightly toward me. When we entered the palace attendants had already informed the emperor of what had happened on the long street. The emperor was displeased. "Zhao, you are a princess. How could you linger outside the palace with a common woman for so long? What kind of example are you setting?" I pouted. "Father, your daughter simply couldn't bear to see the common people suffering. That woman was covered in injuries and holding an infant, she was truly pitiful." My father frowned. "Oh, when did you become so compassionate toward the people?" Seeing that he wasn't truly angry, I dared to sit down beside him. "Father, you love the people like your own children. I have learned this from you." My father sighed and smiled. Pacy was still kneeling. My father did not call him to rise, but asked in a deep voice, I hear that when Chinya captured a bandit? Pacy visibly tensed up. Today, he should have been the center of attention. But instead, he kept making mistakes. I grew angry. Father, that bandit is truly audacious. Daring to slander the Pei family's escort agency in public. The Ministry of Justice must investigate thoroughly and clear my father-in-law's name. Princess. There's no need. Pacy couldn't stop me from speaking. His hands clenched into fists. The Emperor hummed in response, looking at Pacy suspiciously. Pacy was still wearing his armor. It was just the beginning of autumn, and he must have been so scared that his front and back were soaked with sweat. Your Majesty, the bandits are raiding homes and disrupting the peace of the people. I request permission to eliminate them. The Emperor remained expressionless. You just returned from battle and now you request permission to suppress the bandits? Pacy nodded. Protecting the people is my duty. I waved my hand and interrupted. No. Wait until the Ministry of Justice finishes its investigation before you go to suppress the bandits. Otherwise, people will think you're killing them to cover up the truth. Princess. Pacy's voice trembled. My father looked at me with interest and sneered. After a moment, he remembered that Pacy was still kneeling. Look. I was so busy talking to Zhaoer that I forgot about you. Get up. Today is your victory banquet. Don't kneel. Pacy stood up, stumbling slightly. Throughout the banquet, he was trembling with fear. I raised my cup to invite him to drink. But he was distracted. He sat restlessly all night. When we left the palace, the streets were already under curfew. Pacy pulled a horse. Princess. You should return to the palace first. I need to go to the Pei mansion. After months of military campaigns, I haven't seen my elders. I want to pay them a visit. I glanced at the bright moon hanging high in the sky. It's almost midnight. Can your father-in-law sleep? Pacy opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. I smiled lightly. I'm just joking. You should go. Of course he couldn't sleep. Who in the Pei family could sleep tonight? The women in the princess's mansion were also awake. When I returned to the mansion, the servants had already informed me. Her name was Lu Nyang. Since entering the princess's mansion, she had refused to eat or drink. At that moment, she was running wildly to the front courtyard. She craned her neck to look behind me. General, hasn't he returned yet? She asked cautiously. I hummed in response. His colleagues from the court invited him out for a night of revelry. As soon as I finished speaking, Lu Nyang clutched her chest and trembled. 2 tears fell from her eyes. She lowered her head, thinking it was dark and I hadn't noticed. It's late. Why aren't you sleeping? Are you waiting for me? I walked toward her, but she stepped back. I promise to investigate this matter for you, and I won't go back on my word. But it's too late tonight, and I'm tired. Come find me tomorrow morning. I rubbed my temples, ignoring Lu Nyang's frail figure. As I walked toward the house, I said, prepare some hangover soup for the general. He was in a good mood today and probably drank himself into a stupor. Princess. Lu Nyang called out to me from behind, hesitated for a moment, then asked, where did the general go? I feigned surprise and confusion but still answered her. Why do you ask? He's probably at places like the Drunken Spring Pavilion or the Pleasant Red Courtyard. After speaking, I toothed and turned to the servants. Prepare another medicinal bath for him. He's been to a filthy place, he needs to clean up when he returns. Lu Nyang's big, watery eyes were filled with tears as she stood there in a daze. After a long time, she covered her face and ran back to her room. It seemed like she had lost her mind. I took a nap. It was already late at night when Pacy returned. He entered the mansion with a serious expression. But for some reason, He was taken by the servants to take a medicinal bath. I yawned. It's water boiled with mugwort and pomelo leaves, symbolizing the cleansing of evil spirits. Don't worry. The Ministry of Justice will clear the Pay family's name. Pacy leaned tiredly against the bathtub. He rubbed his eyebrows with his fingers. No longer worried. Thank you, Princess, for going to all this trouble. Rest assured, a mere bandit cannot tarnish the reputation of the Pay family. The smile on my lips faded. It seemed that they had come up with a plan during the night. Pacy dressed and stepped out of the bath, his body faintly scented with herbs. Princess, you must be tired after a long night. Go back to bed and rest. He gently brushed the strands of hair from my forehead. Every corner of his eyes and brows was filled with tenderness. I nodded. All right. You should rest early as well. As I turned away, I caught a glimpse of his expression change. His face grew dark. The sky was just beginning to grow light, and the servants on night watch in the corridor had dozed off. It was the deepest part of the night. Pacy hurriedly made his way, avoiding others, and entered Lu Nyang's room. The place where Lu Nyang was staying was a connected courtyard. The wall of the bedroom was connected to the house in the courtyard, and the walls were thin, so any sound could be heard clearly. However, this was the intricate workings of the princess's mansion, and Pacy was unaware of it. He simply thought it was an ordinary guest room. I had already been standing next door, waiting for their secret meeting. A servant whispered to me, "Are you going to catch them in the act?" I shook my head and listened to what they were saying first. This was a golden opportunity. I had to strike while the iron was hot and ensure that the Pay family would never rise again. I heard every word of their conversation. Lu Nyang cried as she threw herself into Pacy's arms. "General, I've been waiting for you for so long." I thought they would engage in some tender moments, kissing and caressing each other. But to my surprise, Pacy pushed her away forcefully. "Foolish woman. Who told you to block the street today?" Pacy scolded her in a low voice. Lu Nyang was pushed back, stumbling, and the child on the bed woke up crying. She frantically tried to calm the child, tears streaming down her face. I truly believed the princess had sent someone to kill me. Besides, the general said we should find an opportunity to humiliate the princess in public. She's always been virtuous. She'd surely let me marry into her family to avoid trouble. Shut up. Pacy grabbed her chin roughly. The Ministry of Justice is investigating the Pay family escort agency. I don't know how much that Heir Liang knows. I'm already overwhelmed. Smuggling tribute items can be covered up by finding someone to take the blame, but I'm worried about the arms smuggling. I listened coldly, my heart racing. All right. All right. This is just asking for trouble. Lu Nyang was trembling with fear. Then, what should we do? Pacy let go of her and pulled out a porcelain bottle from his robe. Tomorrow, the princess will interrogate you. Drink this, and it will temporarily silence you. Once the storm has passed, I will send you and your son out of the capital. Lu Nyang was horrified and backed away in fear. No. No. I won't drink it. Pacy grew impatient. Everything today is because of you. What else do you plan to say? General, I have no other intentions. You promised me a proper status. You said the child is the eldest son and grandson of the Pay family. Lu Nyang cried hysterically, and the child joined in with wails. Pacy quickly covered her mouth, fearing they would attract attention. Stop shouting. He softened his voice and tried to comfort Lu Nyang. The Ministry of Justice and Yuan Zhao are watching closely. I have no time to spare for you. Be obedient. Don't you know how I feel about you? Pacy took Lu Nyang's hand and placed it over his heart. Smelling the scent of medicinal herbs on Pacy, Lu Nyang resisted and pulled her hand away. I'll take the child and leave now. You don't need to trouble yourself. General, She was about to pick up the child when Pacy grabbed her by the arm. This is Princess Yuan Zhao's mansion. Do you think you can just walk out? You fool. You've caused such a commotion. Now obey me. It's for your own good. Pacy's patience had reached its limit. He grabbed Lun Yang by the throat, intending to force the medicine down her throat. The people I had arranged beforehand entered the room at the right moment. Lun Yang. The princess has woken up. She's calling for you. General. What are you doing here? As the door opened, Pacy let go of her first. He straightened his collar, his expression unchanged. I came to ask her who in the army she's been involved with. The old nurse smiled and picked up the child. There's no need for the general to trouble himself. Lun Yang saw this and quickly followed the old nurse. This was the inner courtyard of the princess's mansion. Pacy's men couldn't come in. He slammed his fist on the table, about to follow, when a servant came to relay a message. General, the deputy commander of the army has a message for you. He wants you to come immediately. Pacy nodded. Tell the princess not to leave under any circumstances. He shot Lun Yang a threatening glance. I gathered my skirt and said, send word to Wenqingye to come quickly. When Lun Yang was brought before me, her face was pale. I sat in the main seat and sipped my tea slowly. What's the matter? Are you so afraid to see me? Lun Yang knelt down with a thud, her forehead touching the ground. Princess. Please forgive me. This servant was only what? I set down my teacup. It was still dark outside. What was the general doing in your room? He came to ask me something. Lun Yang spoke cautiously. I snorted in derision. He was trying to poison you. And you're still defending him? Lun Yang trembled violently and looked up abruptly. Her eyes filled with disbelief. You know everything? I laughed softly. This is the princess's mansion. There's nothing that can escape my eyes. Lun Yang's tears fell in a steady stream. Princess. Please spare my son and me. I swear I'll disappear from your sight. Whether you disappear or not, it means nothing to me. Do you know where Pacy went? You were sent here alone to face trial. Lun Yang shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. He went to your private residence to destroy the evidence. I nodded toward the house. Smoke was rising in the east of the city. That was the location of Pacy's private residence. I had already sent people to search it, but there was nothing useful. Lun Yang, your home is gone. I looked at her with pity. At this moment, she was completely at a loss. Look, Pacy would do anything to cover up his crimes. Arson, murder. The last two words were spoken softly. I could tell she was terrified. I frowned at the red mark on her neck. What's this? Your old wound hasn't healed yet. And now you have a new one? Tell me, were those men who threatened to kill you earlier sent by Pacy? Lun Yang collapsed onto the ground, staring blankly ahead. She murmured, No, it couldn't be. The general said he loves me and the children. I rolled my eyes at her and continued to press her. At this point, you're still lying to yourself. Do you know what kind of medicine he gave you? I waved my hand, signaling the old nurse to come in. The porcelain bottle she was holding was identical to the one Pacy had just used. The old nurse brought in a rabbit, poured the medicine into its mouth, and within moments, the rabbit kicked its legs and died. Silly girl. It's crane's beak red. The bottle in my hand was indeed crane's beak red. But such small porcelain bottles were common in the princess's mansion. Lun Yang collapsed immediately. Her face turned pale. He could be so heartless. I looked at Lun Yang with sympathy. She alternated between crying and laughing. The child woke up hungry and stuck out his mouth looking for his mother. She hugged the child and suddenly reached into the swaddling cloth. This is what Pacy told me to hide. After bandits broke into our home last time. I've been carrying it with me ever since. A letter. I took it and was overjoyed. It was a letter between Pacy and the Northern D prince. It was precisely because he had instructed her so carefully to keep it safe. That's how it escaped being burned. Lu Nyang clenched her teeth. Princess. Please be kind to my child. The child is innocent. Innocent? I stared at the infant. If the Pei family is found guilty, it is a crime punishable by the execution of 9 generations. How could he escape? Lu Nyang's face turned ashen. I read the letter. It was about Pacy and the Prince of Beatty agreeing to deliver military supplies on time. But Heir had robbed the convoy several times. And all he had taken were the tribute items from the palace. I frowned in thought. Lu Nyang suddenly clung to the letter as if it were a lifeline, whispering, I know their method of transaction, but the princess must agree to my request. I folded the letter and saw when Qingye had arrived. Speak freely. I swear to protect you and the child's safety. I will not go back on my word. Lu Nyang took a deep breath. This time, he brought a lot of new military equipment with him to the battlefield. And it's all left there without a trace. When Qingye and I gasped in shock. You mean, on the surface, they're going to the border to suppress the rebellion and fight the Northern D. But in reality, they've already colluded with them, using a few skirmishes as a cover to leave the military equipment behind? How can I believe you? Many Northern D people disguised themselves as legitimate merchant caravans and met with Pacy in private residences. Each time, Pacy ordered his deputy to guard the residences and prevent anyone from entering or exiting. I happened to be serving them tea and overheard some of their conversation. Hearing this, I could no longer contain myself. When Qingye patted my shoulder, signaling me to calm down, he ordered his subordinates, go to the Ministry of War and retrieve the records. Investigate how many weapons Pacy took with him before leaving and how many he brought back. I clenched my fist and slammed it hard on the table. He thinks the Emperor and I are fools. When Qingye whispered, I will collaborate with the Ministry of Justice to investigate this thoroughly. The princess may rest assured. His words eased my mind somewhat. I ordered someone to hide Lu Nyang and her son, providing them with good food and drink, lest she act impulsively again. After burning down his private residence, Pacy rushed back to the princess's mansion. Seeing that Lu Nyang and her son were nowhere to be found, he stormed into my room, where I was lazily combing my hair in front of the mirror. Where are that mother and son in the backyard? I scolded him. Why are you being so mean? I didn't do anything to them. Go away. Leave? Pacy suddenly raised his voice. Where did they go? How could you let them leave? She. Pacy stammered for a while, not knowing what to say. I looked at him in confusion, not understanding what was going on. I asked around. It was all a misunderstanding. She said her husband is pearl diving in the South Sea and isn't part of your military. Pacy froze for a moment upon hearing this. Then his face twisted into a ferocious expression. She's lying to you. Go find her. As he spoke, the teacup in his hand crashed to the ground, shattering into pieces. He was furious but couldn't vent his anger on me. He impatiently called for a servant. Send the deputy general to see me. Quickly! It was noon, and the kitchen was serving lunch. Pacy waved his hand, refusing to eat, and saw that the deputy general was still not coming. He was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He suddenly stood up. I'm going to the military camp. Don't wait for me. A smile played at the corners of my mouth. This deputy general was probably never coming back. The Ministry of Justice had already been secretly tailing him. They had already captured the deputy general. I took a carriage to the Ministry of Justice's prison and saw that the deputy general had already been tortured. I covered my nose. The air was filled with the smell of blood. When Qingye whispered in my ear, a stubborn old dog. You won't cry until you see your coffin. I handed Wenqingye the secret letters and the personal belongings of his wife and children. In the darkness, the deputy general turned pale with fear. His legs gave way, and he tried to kneel but couldn't. Sir, please spare my wife and children. I'll confess everything. The deputy general wept uncontrollably, revealing all of Pacy's crimes of colluding with the northern barbarians and selling military equipment. At the same time, the Ministry of War had also investigated the military equipment accounts. 70% of the high-quality equipment Pacy had taken with him when he went to war was missing. I held his signed confession and entered the palace. What a traitor! The emperor was furious and immediately ordered the seizure of Pacy's estate and his arrest. I volunteered. Your Majesty, I will personally go to the military camp to capture him. The emperor looked at me deeply. Zhao, have you thought this through? I bowed deeply. As his wife, I must settle this personally. At the military camp, Pacy was frantically searching for his deputy commander. Upon seeing me arrive with the imperial guards, his expression changed abruptly, but he forced himself to remain calm. Princess, what brings you here? Pacy, do you know your crime? I asked. Pacy feigned composure. The smuggling of tribute items was my father's doing. I had nothing to do with it. Earlier, he went to the Ministry of Justice to confess his crimes. So they had planned it all night to have my father take the blame. I sighed. Your father is a good father, but you are not a good son. Pacy froze. I suddenly grew stern. Brandishing the imperial edict, Pacy colluded with the northern barbarians and smuggled military weapons. The evidence is irrefutable. You are to be escorted back to the palace immediately. Nonsense! Pacy shouted angrily. Who is slandering this general? The surrounding soldiers looked at each other, some already gripping their sword hilts. I sneered and threw the secret letter and ledgers to the ground. These are all your own handwriting. Pacy picked them up and turned ashen. He suddenly lunged forward, reaching for the evidence in my hand. Princess, this is a frame-up. A figure stepped in front of me. It was Wenqingye. Clang! 2 swords clashed. Wenqingye stood before me. His voice deep. General Pei, surrender peacefully. Pacy sneered. With just you? He blew a whistle, and dozens of his personal guards surrounded us. I raised the tiger token high. All soldiers, heed my command. Pacy has colluded with the enemy and betrayed the country. His crimes deserve death. Whoever captures him will be handsomely rewarded. The soldiers, who had been hesitating, immediately turned their spears toward him. Seeing the tide had turned, Pacy turned and fled. Trying to escape, Wenqingye drew his bow and arrow, striking him in the knee. Pacy collapsed to the ground, bound and gagged. He glared at me with hatred. Yuan Zhao. Even as a ghost, I will never forgive you. I leaned close to his ear and whispered, your son is in my hands. Pacy's pupils contracted sharply, and he finally collapsed to the ground. On the day before the entire Pei family was executed, I took Lun Yang, disguised in plain clothes, to the prison to bid Pacy farewell. Upon seeing Lun Yang, he excitedly reached out his hand through the bars. What are you doing here? Where's the child? Let me see the child. Lun Yang looked at him with hatred, her eyes bloodshot. I'm here to see how you die. Pacy froze, utterly shocked. He never imagined those words would come out of Lun Yang's mouth. You poisonous woman. You betrayed me. You tried to poison me first. The two began to argue. As Pacy spoke, he reached out and grabbed Lun Yang's neck. I treated you so well, letting you eat and drink to your heart's content. And you dare to betray me. Lun Yang struggled with all her might, struggling to breathe. The jailer rushed forward and broke Pacy's arm. I helped Lun Yang to her feet, and she gasped for breath. Pacy, do you know why your entire family was executed? Yet I and the child managed to escape. Pacy, with his arm broken, rolled on the ground in agony. Of course. It's because the two of you poisonous women conspired together. No. Because the child isn't even yours. Pacy suddenly looked up, his eyes bulging out of his head. For a moment, he was struck as if by lightning. He rolled around on the ground, cursing the woman. I watched him go mad in silence, suddenly finding it pointless. Lu Nyang, however, felt a bit more at ease. As she stepped out of the prison, she bowed deeply to me. Thank you, princess, for letting me see him like this. I handed her the new identity I had prepared for her. Someone will meet you outside the city and take you to a safe place. She thanked me repeatedly before leaving. In truth, someone was watching her. For the rest of their lives, she and her son would be trapped in a small town. When Qingye appeared behind me, he asked, Princess, do you not hold a grudge against her for interfering in your marriage? I adjusted my cloak. The real culprit is the man. I know who's responsible. Though she was lowly, the people she hired to attack her were brutal. That's enough. What about the child? After all, he is Pacy's bloodline. I looked at Wen Qingye's sharp-featured face. As expected, he would be the next prince consort. I thought for a moment and nodded. The child is innocent. I didn't tell him that when Pacy first strayed. I had given him a powerful potion that rendered him infertile. Otherwise, after all these years, he and I wouldn't have any children. So what Lu Nyang said wasn't entirely a lie to Pacy. At first, she didn't know whose child it was, so she dared not tell Pacy about her affair with the stable hand. Plus, Pacy had promised her that the child would be recorded in the Pei family genealogy. Weighing the pros and cons, she insisted the child was Pacy's. The stable hand returned to the princess's mansion in sorrow. When Qingye saw my silence and gently touched my finger, the princess is kind-hearted, it is Pacy who is unworthy. In 2 days, when the execution takes place, I will take you to see it. On the day the entire Pei family was executed, a heavy rain fell over the capital. I stood on the city wall, watching the blood on the execution ground being washed away by the rain, turning it into a pale red. The once arrogant Pacy was now nothing but a headless corpse. It was a satisfying sight. In the rain, when Qingye held an umbrella over me, I buried my head in his embrace, trembling with fear. Such a kind and timid princess, who could resist her? Soon, his petition to marry me reached the emperor. Not even 7 days had passed since Pacy's execution. My father asked me what I thought, and I gladly agreed. Wen Qingye, you won't let me down, will you?